And good morning, everyone, and welcome to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. My name is Alexi Boyd, the host, lover of all things small business, advocate, bookkeeper, wearer of many hats would be a good description. And today we're going to be focusing on a particular hat which, look, let's admit it, we don't as small business think about it. We don't worry about it. We try not to think about it because it's going to cause us worry. And really, we're going to be talking about the psychological aspect of business. And it's something that we don't spend enough time. In fact, the only time we really spend on it is when we're stressing about our businesses and how we're going and where we're going into the future. And it's an important aspect that we should probably think about almost on a daily basis. Now, today's special guest, Leah from Success Insight, is an expert in business psychology and psychometric profiling. And today she's going to share with us some knowledge about how to deal with, with the overwhelm side of things and how to feel a little bit more in control, psychologically speaking, of your business. In the last few weeks, we've had some fantastic special guests ranging from those who with quite a technical knowledge all the way through to those of us who are just giving business advice, and I'm hoping that today's program will do exactly that for the listeners. So welcome to the program, Leah.
Thank you, Alexi.
Thank you very much for coming on. Now, I'm really excited to have you on the program because I do really enjoy having people with the sort of knowledge about psychological, I don't want to say testing, because there's a little bit of fear of psychoanalysis, I think, that a lot of people might have when they have to sit down and really think about their businesses as well. I'll just get you to come a bit closer to the mic as well. Now, when it comes to psychologically, how do you even broach the subject with small business when you want them to talk about that aspect? Because, I mean, I can talk to them about numbers and, you know, another expert might talk to them about insurance. That's something they sort of know, okay, I've got to do it. But how do you really get them to think about psychology and moving forward with it?
That's a great question, Alexi. And I guess to be honest with you, I do have a background in the psychology of business and mindset. And this is often overlooked when we are so busy in the business of doing the business.
Yes, the doing. And it's usually a passion that we have for something that draws us into business. Mm-hmm. And we are often highly skilled at the technical aspects of the business. And I would say the technical aspects of a business, as you mentioned, is the numbers. It, is working all of those lead and lag measures that will generate revenue and all the aspects of the doing. So when you engage a psychology trained business coach like myself, my focus and expertise is how are you thinking? What are your thinking skills? What is your toolkit of your mind that sits over and above what you are doing in the business? I love that expression. I love the toolkit of the mind because, you know, so many times we focus on the widget that we're making. We're focusing on the numbers, not just on the accounting numbers, which I'm a fan of, but also the numbers of achieving goals and getting those sales targets and how many people can I call this week and how many people can I convert. It just seems to be so numbers centric. And I guess you've got to move past that and think about the bigger picture? Is that how you put people into that mindset to really start thinking about it in the first place?
Often a core question I will ask is, yes, tell me how you got to be here. Tell me about what's brought you here.
So it's like the icebreaker.
Yeah.
The business coach icebreaker.
Yeah, and it also brings us back to what matters most to us. Right, and I have not met a single business owner that doesn't have a passion beyond the numbers and beyond that drive to succeed financially. There is an element of wanting to contribute, there's an element of adding value, and there's a big personal element of their character that's often buried deep underneath the doing. And often traditional business coaches will come in and we look specifically at the numbers and we look at the doing and we're trying to improve what are you doing? How can you be more productive and more effective? Whereas a psychology trained mindset coach where I focus on thinking skills. I will help to upskill your ability to think about what you're doing and think about problem solving. And I do this by teaching a range of thinking models and working with you to learn how to apply those thinking models so that you can reconnect with why things matter.
See, I got really excited then when you said models because it immediately made me think of process. So I'm a fan of very practical strategies. So talk me through some of those. Give me a step-by-step process really broadly without giving away, obviously, your industry secrets. But obviously you want to take people on that journey of progression and moving forward and getting into the right mindset. Step one, let's talk about the psychology and how you think about things. Is it just a matter of being, I'm just going to be really base here. Is it just a matter of being more organised? Is it that simple, or is it that simple of just having a list and checking it off? It's obviously not, because obviously I'm not a mind coach. I just think of lists. But how do you get people into that strategy and maybe what's that process step by step to move and get your mind thinking in the right way?
Well, I love the way you are thinking, Alexi, because the to-do lists is absolutely a start point where, it's like doing a brain dump of everything we've got to do that day, that week, that month. That is definitely one approach to take. And then when you have a system to guide your thinking, to help you categorise that to-do list, right? If you think about it as a hierarchy. And so for everything on that to-do list, what category does that pertain to? So to give you a framework to consider here, the 4-factor framework that I work with is designed to align our thinking and enable us to categorise and subcategorise the to-do lists into a format that will then help A, to prioritise, B,
the magic word
prioritise. It will also help you identify the gaps of where you need to ask for help.
Oh, yes, good.
And I would say that for the small business owner, the CEO of their own baby, often the hardest thing to ask for is outside help, because we want to look like we've got it all together. We don't want other people to think that we don't know what we're doing. So there's all this image management that often goes on while, that whole scenario of the duck looking smooth on top and paddling like mad underneath.
Yeah.
Whereas when we're paddling underneath, energetically, people get that.
And wasting time.
Yeah,
that's right. I really like what your focus is there with the importance of outsourcing, because quite often it does take a couple of years in your business journey to recognise, first of all, what do I suck at? What am I really bad at that I need help with? Or maybe even just a little bit more coaching. But at the end of the day, this whole wearing lots of hats business is actually a big frou-frou. It's what we think we do at the beginning of the journey. And then once you've been in business for a bit, you just go, actually, you know what, that hat doesn't fit. That one is just really ugly. I don't want to wear that hat. And you work out which hats you're going to put on other people.
Yes, but often we wear those hats that for too long, right? We get into a groove that, becomes our pattern, and we often will be that emu with the head in the sand.
Yeah.
Right? And this is where often then it's only when we're in really deep quagmire that we're asking for help. And, whereas the statistics, the evidence shows that, that business owners who do engage a skilled coach at the beginning of their journey and continue according to their needs are 4 times more likely to succeed. And we know the numbers, the statistics of businesses that fail in their first 2 years.
That's right. And is it because they've got the person that they're accountable to? Do you think that's the key, that they've got someone that they have to report back to? Or is it because, in all honesty, is it because the skills of that coach is there to help them along? Or is it because they just have to do it because they've got deadlines that they have to meet for this person? What's the secret sauce to the business coach?
Wow. You know where I went with that whole aspect of accountability and having to answer to that boss. Isn't that what a lot of us have wanted to leave behind?
Good point. Yeah, that's
in
right.
the corporate world or, in government, and we think that by starting our own business, we're going to be our own boss. So what I like to to share is that your business coach needs to be someone who is in your corner and that person that you want to report into, that you absolutely trust as you would your partner. Because, if that trust and that sense of belief that person is going to have the skill and the resources that you need to help you do what you need to do, the relationship won't work.
So how do you find
feel
that
like
person?
Just another boss.
How do you find that person? Take me through what are the good questions to ask when you're searching, particularly in your area of expertise, the mind coach. What are the good questions to ask to find the right person? Is there a professional association that person should be a part of, or is there some sort of training or qualifications you would expect them to have as a starting point?
And that's a great question as well, Alexi, because there is no barrier of entry as such to be able to call yourself a coach. So there is not a specific qualification per se. There are various training organisations that provide different types of training. And again, this is where it comes back to asking questions like, what systems do you use to support your profession? Mm-hmm. And, who are you associating with? Right.
Is this the person that, if you're the client, you're looking for the coach, these are the questions you're asking?
Definitely.
Yep.
You want to make sure that whoever you're engaging is already part of a mastermind, a brains trust, has their own coach and their own support system for supervision, right? Because there is no one size fits all.
I like that idea.
There is no
I like
one
that
size
idea
fits
of
all.
saying that that person has to have their own coach. Are we looking for a coach with a coach? And that person has a coach? Is it a coach like a babushka doll?
Yeah, absolutely. You want someone that is continually investing in their education and in their own development. And that is because that is key to success, that we are growing and expanding. And also that we have an evidence-based, systematic approach to what we teach. Because so many times I will meet business owners will say, I had a business coach and I paid a lot of money and I don't really know what I got.
Yeah.
So the fit, the match, I would absolutely recommend a conversation, right? And most coaches will give you 30 minutes, an hour of a discovery session, a mutual conversation to assess the fit. But again, what evidence-based systems do they use? What is their development program themselves, right? So I would never pay money to someone who is not in continuous development themselves. Right, so the saying is that formal education will get you your first job. Self-education will bring your dreams to reality.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic.
Right.
Look, we're going to take a quick break now. There's so much to talk about. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the systems that you use and also how to combat the overwhelm associated with those systems. You're listening to Triple H 100.1 FM. We'll be back after this. So today we're talking to Leah and we are discussing the importance of how to engage. Just before the break we were talking about how to engage with a good mindset coach, different from a business coach but still someone who supports you in your business journey, and the sort of questions that you should ask. Now, we also touched on, Leah, the idea of feeling a sense of control by writing a list. I mean, that's really base, obviously. There's a technique to that. But what I'm a bit anti, because I've been on this list organisational journey myself as a business owner, and I used to have a thing I used to call it race to the bottom of the page. And it used to be, how many things can I think of that I can do to get to the bottom of this A4 page? And there's a certain craziness to that, because although I feel organised because it's down on paper, I suddenly feel completely overwhelmed because I'm going, oh my God, there's a whole page. I don't know what I'm doing. So what is it that we can do to find that balance between being organised, getting it out of our head but also not looking at a piece of paper and thinking, how am I going to get all this done? What's
Yes.
the secret sauce to that?
The secret sauce is absolutely what system are you using to categorise your thinking? Because our subconscious can only handle 4 to 7 chunks at one time.
Oh.
So when we're in overwhelm, our attention is going beyond those 7 chunks. And in fact, I think the latest research is pointing more towards the lower end, so more than 4 chunks even. We're going into overwhelm. So pick one thing, right, in that moment. And because when you choose one door, all other doors open, right? So this is a skill, right? That we learn to do, and through practicing the skill, we're building new neurology, and that's what a mindset coach such as myself, where I have the background in a Master's of Science degree in coaching psychology and continual learning in brain principles and systems to help us categorise our thinking. And I will talk about the umbrella system I use in a moment. But let's just talk about that point of overwhelm. Pick one thing, one thing on that list. Why does this matter to me? Why is it important? For what purpose does this serve? Is it ecological? Does it help me? Does it help you? And is it for the greater good? Just like we should all turn our dryers off, right? It's good for me, it's good for you, and it's absolutely for the greater good, right? And this is where having a system to fall back on within yourself, and this is a big part of the training that I do, and that's why, again, it's not 1 or 2 sessions. It will often start with 6 sessions and then roll out into a development plan over 9 to 12 months, which we're continually tweaking. But effectively, what I help you do is recategorize your thinking so that we firstly, we put those things into 4 pillars, and the 4 pillars I use is a system called the critical alignment model, which is an overarching thinking and behavioural model that was developed by Sharon Pearson, who's the founder and leader of the Coaching Institute and one of Australia's most successful psychology-based mindset coaches. And so with this model then, we start with environment. There's 4 pillars: environment, structure, implementation and people. And this can be applied to any context, whether you're building a house, whether you're writing a business plan, whether you're organising a wedding, whether you're organising your day, right? So the environment aspect is all things mindset. So it's our vision, mission, beliefs, our attitudes, and the why behind a decision. Let's say if we use the frame of how do we approach a decision, like which things should I do first? So the environment aspect, so what is the vision, mission, values, belief? What, and then the structure aspect is the what. So the structure is going to be all your systems and processes. And think about a house. It's going to be the scaffolding that holds up the walls and allows the roof to come on. So we must get our structures in place. And then the implementation aspect is what is actually done. So that's our action plans. That's the things we do within the structures to produce the outcome that sits in the environment. And then the 4th category is the people category. And this is where, who do I need to be to get stuff done within those structures and to complete on purpose? And so this is where, and then who do I need on my bus? What seats do I need filled on my bus? And typically, a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners and consultants are so busy doing, right? They're doing, and they're doing their best to be the best at everything. As we said, they typically don't delegate particularly well. But until you have this system to categorise and subcategorise all aspects of your business, your decision, making processes, then you will be always at the mercy of this endless list. And also because what we learn to do by learning to think within this 4-pillared structure is that we learn to truly work from that famous saying, start with the end in mind. Start with the end in mind. And that is annually, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, right? So we're using that traditional business approach and adding a layer of how we think about it that is going to give us a whole range of new possibilities and options and ways to approach that endless to-do list. And the goal of certainly my goal is to teach and transfer all of my mindset skills that we work together on so that you as the business owner can take those and teach those to your team and have that infiltrate how you operate in life. So it's that very much that integrated approach of putting you in the centre of your business. Your mind and how you think about things is what will determine your results.
Right.
Because you are getting the results today as a result of what you focus on.
And it does. It's about that focus element, isn't it? It's about having a look at the what used to be an overwhelm and then looking at it with this particular, I guess, mental attitude to help prioritise and then see what's the most important thing and what needs to maybe just be a bit of frou-frou and comes in at the end kind of thing. I do, when you mentioned the whole quarterly, monthly, weekly, I know talking to some businesses that can seem a little bit like I don't even have half a day where I can sit down with butcher paper and pretty colours and work all this out. I don't have the time to sit down and really prioritise my lists, even to working out what time frame they need to be held in. So what would you say to a business who is experiencing that difficulty of finding the right time in a practical sense? Is it just pick yourself up, go to somewhere that you're not used to working in, taking different paper, maybe take yourself off to Kiki K and treat yourself to a nice notebook? What, in a practical way, is a great way to get over that initial sense of overwhelm to, I guess, creating that list in the first place? Is there something you can suggest?
That's a great question. And the truth of the matter is, Alexi, that we give our attention and we spend our time on the things that matter most to us. And that will be driven subconsciously if we don't make conscious decisions about what we give our time to. And as a business owner, if you do not create time to work on your business, whether it be with coloured papers and a whiteboard or sitting on a rock contemplating.
Or listening to great podcasts like Small Biz Matters.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You have to make the time is what you're saying.
Yeah, and we must prioritise working on the business. That has to be as important as getting your BAS statements in or as important as paying your people.
Well, here's a thought, because we, us as bookkeepers, we just experienced a massive, whopping, great big BAS deadline because we get extra time as BAS agents. But I obviously have that sense of relief now that that's all done and everybody's lodged and everyone's happy and all clients are good. So maybe now is a good time, now that my brain is a bit emptier of all that client work, I've just come over that big hurdle. Maybe today is a great time to sit down and go, okay, well, I need to reconsider where I'm working my office. Let's make a time plan for that. Or I need to think about bringing on more staff. Let's make a time frame for that and work backwards from, well, if I want to employ someone in 3 months' time, I need to be looking around now in order to interview in a month, in order to onboard, and they have to leave their job. Because people forget about those timelines, don't they?
Absolutely.
For those goals. I mean, they go, I need to move out of home and go into a real office. Okay, that's great. First you need to shop around. First you need to do this and this and this. So I guess one way of getting over that overwhelm is, like you said, looking at the end in mind, working out for you what's really important as a business. Do you really need to move out of home? Are you okay working where you are? Or is it seriously driving you crazy that you're getting up every 5 minutes to hang a load of washing? So it's kind of, yeah, it is. It's a bit of a balance, isn't it? It's a balance of figuring out what's important and going back to your why and then without feeling a sense of overwhelm in terms of all those things you've got to do.
Yeah, and I would also add to that the fastest way out of that is at this time is to engage that psychology-based business coach, right? Someone who has the psychology training plus the business background that is going to help facilitate and accelerate your thinking processes, because we are not islands. And yet as business owners, often we come back to this whole thing, we've got to do it ourselves, we've got to figure it out ourselves. And particularly with the values work and purpose-based work, far more efficient to work with a coach who is trained again in a systemised approach to how we actually define your purpose, values, mission, so that it becomes a working project and not just something that lands on the wall and never gets visited again. How many businesses have values on the wall that supposedly are a reflection of what matters most to them?
And then they gather dust.
Yep. So again, a lot of the work we do is weave in all those elements of what's most important of working on your mindset and bringing that in to practical ways to weave that into what you do in your everyday life.
I think it's very important what you're mentioning there about someone with a systemised process, and coming back to what you said originally when you're shopping around for perhaps a mindset coach or a business coach at all, is that they themselves are going through a journey and growing and perhaps even having their own coaches as well for their business so that they can see from the inside what it is that their clients are going through as well. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the processes that you suggest. Psychometric testing is fascinating to me. I went to a fantastic workshop with Katrina Friel. She's been on the program before. She's an executive coach. And I'd never done any of this. I mean, I came from an office management background and a teaching background. I'll tell you what, as teachers, you get none of this training. But to sit down and actually be psychometrically tested and work out what I am, like, you know, you do the testing and you get spat out at the end and you work out what you are. I mean, I could have told myself that I'm an emotional, kinesthetic, whatever it is person. I can't even remember what it is now. But it's an interesting process to go through. So could you just take me through a little bit, explain better than I just did how the system works?
Look, I think what you explained was a fabulous foundation for what a lot of people's experience is with psychometric testing, and that is, well, I got new labels for what I know I am already. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, with delving a little bit deeper into why it is those labels are applicable, because often we can pigeonhole ourselves psychologically. I mean, you get to a certain age, you're like, okay, I know I'm organised. I also know I'm very emotional, and I know I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, and this. But what does that mean? Yes. And how is that applicable? And I think that's
and
sort of
why
the next
does
step.
it matter? Why does it matter?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
For what purpose do you undertake a psychometric test? What is the one thing you want to be moving forward on that you're not moving forward on right now, that you're looking for this data set to shed light on?
Are you saying what are your weaknesses?
No, I'm asking you to come to the table with that question in mind.
I see.
Because what we want to do is, again, we want to feed our subconscious with a specific question, because our subconscious mind is going to go searching for evidence for that. Mm-hmm. So if and a lot of people come and they're just curious to see what this particular profiling tool that I use, what's that going to tell them about themselves? And I will always delve one layer deeper, say, for what purpose do you want to know? What is one element that you want more information about that's going to help you, that you believe is going to help you move forward in a particular area of your business?
Right.
Because this profile tool that I use, which is the Metadynamics profile tool developed by Sharon Pearson and the Coaching Institute, is very attuned. It's been designed specifically to interrogate the way we think and come out with a pattern of archetypes that reflect what our natural, most dominant leadership thinking styles are.
Yes, that's very interesting. Just take me through really broadly, because I know that this can be a very detailed, long exercise. What is the process of going through a testing thing like this? Do you sit there with a tic-tac-toe board and speed and get these tests? How does it even work for those of you who haven't experienced it before?
Well, it's most of these psychometric tests are an online program now. So you'll sit down and there's a fee to pay for the license, and then also the diagnostic analysis session, which runs. I take 3 hours to unpack mine. And so you'll do the assessment online, and from that assessment then a report will be generated, and you'll get different information, but quantitative and qualitative information that we will then use to discuss which aspects of either strengths or gaps are we seeing that are impacting you in your business and in your life right now. So we're looking for ways to uncover, go like under the hood of what you already know about yourself.
So do they tend to be multiple choice questions that you tend to do, and it lasts for what, half an hour to an hour?
Yeah, it will 45 minutes to an hour. The either or questions, and the beauty of the metadynamics profile is that it maps back to that critical alignment model that I shared. So it will map your thinking back into how effectively or how you make meaning of things from an environmental stance, in as far as what your aspect and your strengths and gaps are in structure, what your strengths and gaps are in implementation, and also with people. So it's incredibly comprehensive, and it forms the foundation of what can become your development plan for the next 24 to 48 months that you can take away and work with another coach if you prefer, or a group coaching or mastermind option that I run also. And so, but what you get is a blueprint that can set you up for the next 12 to 24 months.
Yeah, no, and it's kind of like a foundation stone, isn't it? We're going to take a quick break here on Small Biz Matters and come back after this. We're just going to listen to some community service announcements. We'll be back on Triple H 100.1 FM. And you are live on the air with Triple H 100.1 FM. My name is Alexi Boyd, host of Small Biz Matters, which we are right in the middle of the program for. If, of course, you have missed any of today's show, you can catch up via the smallbizmatters.com.au blogs and podcast page, where there are over 100 podcasts to listen to at your leisure. We've had lots of fantastic guests, including the guest we have on today, Leah, who is talking to us all about the psychology of being a business owner and how to improve on that, and also how to shop around for a really great life and business coach. And yeah, I think it's been an interesting program today, because we've talked a lot about the processes of understanding your own psychology as a business owner. I think it's important to understand. As I said at the beginning of the program, it's often something we just pop at the bottom of the list. It certainly doesn't make it into any butcher paper. Does it? You don't come across anybody going, right, I've sat down and I've worked out that the very first thing I need to do is analyse the way I approach my business as a business owner. Does anyone ever come to you like that? No. They're coming to you and saying, I need to meet these targets, these numbers. My accountant said, my business advisor has said I need to do this, this and this. My financial advisor said I need to earn this much before I can invest in property. That's what we seem to be bogged down in. So at the beginning of the program, Leah, you're mentioning a good way of tackling getting into the psychology of things, right? I mean, we don't really do that as business owners.
No, and I was thinking as you were sharing there, Alexi, whether, if we added another line in the spreadsheet even, thinking skills, right? Thinking skills. What's the benchmark for my thinking skills?
Imagine
because
that.
We're benchmarking numbers, aren't we?
Yes.
We're benchmarking all sorts of other things. What would happen to that small business owner if they put as much value on their thinking skills as a thing?
Yeah.
As a thing.
As a line item.
As a line item.
Putting it in their chart of accounts,
Whoa.
Leah. Imagine that.
Whoa.
I've got research and subscriptions, I've got computer bits and pieces for hardware, and I've got thinking skills.
Let's go with that.
We're going to change the world.
Absolutely.
But it's not something we should be putting at the bottom of the pile. And I think it takes a good... I've just seen from my clients as a bookkeeper with Boyd Office Management Services, proud supporters of Triple H, as I see with going through the journey with that, it does take years before you sit down and go, okay, all right, now I'm going to start to analyse how I approach my business. And one of the words that's been floating around recently has been solopreneurs. I'm not a fan of using buzzwords, but I think it's an interesting way of describing us as business owners. But I think there's too much emphasis on the solo because, we talked about the importance of sharing the journey with other people, getting other people on board, surrounding yourself with experts. What is this obsession, do you think, in the business world with solo? When it's not really a solo journey. I don't know anyone who sits in their house and does nothing with anyone else.
No, and I wonder if that's becoming almost an added pressure. Like the other word that comes to mind is the mumpreneurs.
Oh my God,
the women who cannot now just be with their babies at home. They've got to have a home-based business,
or you've got to have a what's your goal?
Yes,
I had a friend of mine who has 3 beautiful girls, and she is the most fantastic mother, the most amazing mother. And she puts on her thing self-employed. Well, don't do that. No, put down that you are a full-time mother to 3 fantastically growing, fabulous young women who are hopefully going to be as fabulous as you are. We don't put enough importance on just being ourselves. It's that whole labelling system. And coming back to what you were saying before about psychometric testing, don't do these things just for the sake of, putting another label on your shirt.
Absolutely not. Do not invest any time or money in those sorts of things unless you've got a higher purpose.
Unless it's a Dymo label maker. Literally, unless it's a label maker, don't make labels.
Exactly.
That's going to be a thing now.
And because the question to ask is, what does this mean? And what does this mean for me? And why does this matter to me? It's
coming
really
back to those
Y
4
quadrant.
pillars.
The Y quadrant.
But I like the way you describe it with those pillars. It's not. There's 4 of them. It's not. Yes, the why is there and as part of the environmental one. But I like the structure and the doing. It's got to be a balanced, and it's got to be 4 because nothing holds up with just 3 unless it's a triangle prism. But anyway, getting back to my maths.
Yes, and coming back to the solopreneur and the thinking model and the psychology of being human, right? The 3 things we need to support our psychological and emotional well-being is we need connection, right? We need to know that we matter, so that feeling of significance, and we've got to learn how to give that to ourselves, but we also need the reciprocity from our environment giving it to us.
That's right.
Right?
Surrounding yourself with good people who appreciate you is so important.
And maybe that's why the mums do need a business, because their kids are not always going to tell them that they value them, right?
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And neither do their husbands, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
But yeah, coming back to that element of reciprocity around knowing that you matter and that you matter to yourself and within your ecosystem. And the third thing is a sense of belonging, right? That is a human, like it's in our DNA to belong to a tribe.
Herd animals.
We are herd animals. And I guess this is what, and I love it that you announce all the different networking events and opportunities to come together and have that connection and validation and with like-minded people. And this is what solopreneurs must find for themselves, is a community of like-minded people. And that's why the service that you run here, Alexi, is so valuable, right, as being that way of listening in to create a sense of community, even if we might be doing our own thing in the physically being alone. And certainly with social media and, all the social media platforms, that's a whole other world as well that is vital for most solopreneurs to learn how to navigate that and create environment and branding and identity within that, because that's the whole thing, that we all are an identity of some sort. So the more conscious we can be about who we are being, then the more effective we're going to be within ourselves and in our communities.
And that's great, because you come back around to that whole, that's the reason why we do these testing things.
Yeah.
It helps you identify, not label, but more identify what your strengths are, maybe a little bit about what your weaknesses are, what your leadership, the way that you lead, the people that you should surround yourself with. It is, I think it's important. Put it on the balance sheet. Put it on your chart of accounts. Make it a thing, whether it's doing research yourself, maybe, finding one of these not so great, I want to say cheap. I'm sure you can do testing out there that's relatively cheap, but do things properly. If you're going to do something, do it properly and engage with someone like yourself to do some coaching around that and use it. Don't just put a label on your shirt and go, this is me. What you are is not just a label with your name on it. It is so much more. And like you said, in those different spaces, in social media, in networking groups, face-to-face, on the radio, connect with people to help reinforce what it is that you are. And if at the end of the day you want to stick solopreneur on your shirt, not something I would use. If you want to stick mumpreneur on there, that's okay. But you've got to own it. It's like you kind of can't shop around for labels, I guess, in a way.
You're absolutely right. And this is the whole thing about owning it and about standing proud in your shoes about your uniqueness and what you bring and what you stand for. Like there's that other beautiful saying by Wayne Dyer, do not die with the song still in you. Right? And that's another reason that often people go searching for different types of testing and ways to understand themselves more deeply, because the more deeply we understand ourselves, the more effectively we can express ourselves and help others to do the same, because there is a ripple effect energetically in what we do, how we're being, and how we're making meaning of our worlds. And so you definitely, the solopreneur is going to die.
Hopefully.
On their own.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's solo.
It's solo.
Exactly. It doesn't all have to be solo. Look, thank you so much for coming on the program today, Leah. It's been a real eye-opener to understand, I guess, firstly, what the process is of engaging with someone such as yourself, and also what to do with that information once you receive it and how to utilise it in your business. Give us a quick plug for where people can find out more about you, please.
Oh, certainly. Thank you so much, Alexi. Do come and visit my website, which is www.successinsight.com.au, or email me on leah@successinsight.com.au, and I'm very happy to share resources or, have conversations with your listeners and see how we can all add value to this community we're part of.
Indeed. And thank you once again. You are, of course, listening to the community, which is Triple H 100.1 FM. You can find out more about lots of different programs such as Small Biz Matters via the Triple H website, of course. And if you'd like to come on the program and share your valuable insights, just like Leah has done today, get in touch with us either via Facebook, Small Biz Matters Australia, because Small Biz Matters was taken. I didn't get in 5 years ago. And of course, you can listen to all our blogs and podcasts via the smallbizmatters.com.au website. And again, thank you very much for coming on the program, Leah. And we'll see everyone next week. You've been listening to Triple H 100.1 FM.